Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rao. Thanks so much for tuning in. Up ahead, we'll get you all the latest COVID and vaccine news. Also, a host of political meetings are planned today. We'll get you all the details. Let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking right now. India sets a vaccination record. Over 84 lakh jabs have been given in one day. Madhya Pradesh is the highest with over 16 lakh vaccinations. The Maharashtra Health Minister says 21 cases of the new Delta Plus variant have been detected in the state. Authorities are now trying to trace high-risk and low-risk contacts of these patients. After speculation following his meeting with Sharad Pawar, Prashant Kishor tells NDTV he doesn't think the third front can successfully challenge the BJP. He rules out any association. NCP leader Sharad Pawar has called a meeting of opposition parties and eminent personalities today to explore a joint fight against the BJP, not just in the 2024 national elections, but also in Uttar Pradesh. The Congress infighting in Punjab worsens. Navjot Singh Sidhu attacks the Chief Minister openly. Captain Amrinder Singh will meet the Congress panel in Delhi today. And members of the Gupkar Alliance in Kashmir will meet today at Farooq Abdullah's residence to decide on the invitation for talks by the Prime Minister. Our top story, India set a new vaccination record on day one of the new vaccination drive. The daily vaccinations on Monday hit an all-time high. Over 84 lakh jabs were given on Monday, and Madhya Pradesh was the highest with over 16 lakh vaccinations in a single day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted, record-breaking vaccination numbers are gladdening. The vaccine remains our strongest weapon to fight COVID. Congratulations to those who got vaccinated and kudos to all the frontline warriors working hard to ensure so many citizens got the vaccine.
India crossed its highest daily vaccinations today with nearly 80 lakh doses earlier this evening on the first day of a fresh push, making jabs free for all. Karnataka was the front runner with over 9.8 lakh vaccinations today by 7 p.m, while it usually vaccinates 1.5 lakh people daily. Karnataka had set a target of vaccinating up to 7 lakh people today.
Opening up almost inevitably leads to a rising number of COVID-19 cases. And as Karnataka lifts lockdown restrictions, the state has been organizing free vaccination camps in many parts of Karnataka. And here in Bengaluru, the BBMP is also organizing free camps in work spots like this one. The hope that mass vaccination can help to lessen the impact of the third wave.
In Maharashtra, 3.6 lakh vaccinations were done by 7 p.m. in comparison to the usual daily vaccinations of around 2.7 lakh.
I wanted to get vaccinated as soon as possible. I have a kid, so I didn't want to, take any chances further with all these things that's coming up.
In Uttar Pradesh, till 7 p.m, the state had vaccinated 6.3 lakh people, much higher than its usual daily vaccinations of 3.5 lakh.
On the streets of Lucknow, especially near Chief Minister Adityanath's residence, there are multiple billboards talking about the big push of the Uttar Pradesh government for vaccinations.
But UP's other big challenge, vaccine hesitancy, especially in the state's vast rural areas.
अगर इससे बच्चा बुखार आ सकता है तो कोई दिक्कत होगी तो बुखार की दवा ले लीजिएगा केवल दाब लो उसे
अरे ये देखिए मुख्यमंत्री भी लगवा रहे हैं प्रधानमंत्री भी लगवा रहे हैं
क्या आपको तकलीफ हो रहा है क्या परेशानी है कि आप लोग टीका नहीं लगवा रहे वो लोग कोई भी जवाब नहीं दे रहे हैं बस बोल रहे हैं कि हमें नहीं लगवाना हम पूछ रहे हैं क्यों नहीं लगवा रहे रीजन क्या है रीजन भी वो लोग नहीं बता रहे हैं और कुछ लोग तो इतना वो करने लगे पैर तक पकड़ने लग रहे हैं कि मैडम हमें नहीं लगवाना है आप चली जाइए
Assam, which has one of the lowest vaccination rate in the country, inoculated 3 lakh people by 7 p.m. instead of average 1 lakh vaccinations per day.
Assam has launched a mega vaccination drive. The aim is to inoculate at least 30 lakh people in coming 10 days, and therefore 2,000 vaccine centers like this one has been opened up. The public response has also been good on day one, and the government says if required in urban areas, vaccine centers would remain open for 12 hours a day.
ऑनलाइन के लिए प्रॉब्लम हो रहा था, हम लोग को मिल नहीं रहा है, मौका नहीं मिल रहा है। तो अभी क्या है, जो अभी ऐसे खुलेआम दे दिया, डायरेक्ट दिया सरकार, तो उसका वजह से हम लोग को भी ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट है, जो हम लोग आके डायरेक्ट वैक्सीन ले रहे हैं।
The Bengal government has decided not to do universal free vaccination from today. They are going a little slow because vaccine supplies are low.
However, Delhi had 75,000 vaccinations by 7 p.m. Its usual daily vaccinations are around 85,000. The state also complained of shortage of stock.
दिल्ली सरकार को भी इन्होंने कहा, दिल्ली सरकार के अफसरों को कहा कि दिल्ली की सरकार की तरफ से भी ये विज्ञापन जाना चाहिए, धन्यवाद मोदी जी, मुफ्त वैक्सीन। मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि लोगों को विज्ञापन की नहीं, वैक्सीन की जरूरत है। 2,94,00,000 वैक्सीन, जैसा मैंने कहा, दिल्ली के लिए चाहिए। भारतीय जनता पार्टी को शर्म आनी चाहिए कि वैक्सीन तो दे रहे हैं 15 लाख और ऊपर से अफसरों पर दबाव डाल रहे हैं कि विज्ञापन दीजिए।
The government had earlier declared its ambitious target of covering the whole adult population of 108 crore by the end of this year. But for India to achieve that goal, it will have to maintain the consistency of its vaccination drive. Bureau report for NDTV.
Meanwhile, the Maharashtra government has said that they have found 21 cases of the new Delta Plus variant of coronavirus. Authorities are now trying to get details of their travel history and trace high-risk and low-risk contacts of all the patients. Remember, AIIMS Director Randeep Guleria has said that the Delta Plus variant could become a variant of concern if left unchecked.
Variant Delta Plus या संदर्भात मला अशी माहिती सांगावीशी वाटते की साधारणपणे महाराष्ट्राने होल जिनोमिक सिक्वेन्सिंगच्या संदर्भात निर्णय घेतला आणि प्रत्येक जिल्ह्यातील 100 सॅम्पल्स घेण्याच्या संदर्भातील कार्यवाही सुरू केली आणि या महत्त्वाच्या कार्यवाहीसाठी CSIR आणि IGIB या महत्त्वाच्या संस्थेचा सहभाग यामध्ये घेतलेला आहे आणि NCDC ची सपोर्ट सुद्धा यामध्ये घेतलेला आहे। या सगळ्यांच्या संदर्भाने आजपर्यंत 15 मे पासून जवळजवळ 7,500च्या वर सॅम्पल्स घेण्यात आले आणि या सगळ्या सॅम्पल्सचं होल जिनोमिक सिक्वेन्सिंग करण्यात आलं, ज्यामध्ये डेल्टा प्लस व्हेरिएंट साधारणपणे 21 केसेस सापडल्या। या 21 केसेस रत्नागिरीमध्ये 9, जळगावमध्ये 7, मुंबईमध्ये 2 आणि पालघर, सिंधुदुर्ग, ठाण्यामध्ये 1।
Now, on Monday, there was speculation of a third front revival ahead of the 2024 elections following Sharad Pawar's meeting with poll strategist Prashant Kishor. But speaking to NDTV later in the evening, Prashant Kishor ruled out any association with a third front to take on the BJP in the next general election. He said, I don't believe a third or fourth front could emerge as a successfully challenge to the current dispensation. Mr. Kishor believes that the tried and tested third front model is archaic and not suited to the current political dynamic. Srinivasan Jain has more.
Someone who's been in touch with Prashant Kishor for a while, this has been his position from the beginning. He says that he doesn't believe that third or fourth front works. He says that these are all options that have been tried in the past, but they simply do not have the capacity to take on the BJP in 2024. And he completely distances himself from any such attempt to cobble together a third or fourth front. Now, I think what has happened is that because he's been meeting Sharad Pawar and subsequently this meeting of a smattering of political leaders as well as some intellectuals and others is being called tomorrow, the speculation has built around the fact that it was Prashant Kishor and Sharad Pawar who were together trying to put together some sort of third or fourth front. So I think to clarify the point that he actually is not part of any such exercise, Prashant Kishor has come on record telling me that in fact he wants nothing to do with this. Prashant Kishor telling me that they are very much having hardcore political discussions, going state by state, wargaming, what are the possibilities, what can work and what can't work. when it comes to taking on the BJP in 2024. It's just that neither of them believe that the third front model is something that is viable. So what he's trying to essentially say is that he will continue to dig into the trenches when it comes to the long haul of fighting the BJP in 2024. These meetings with Sharad Pawar are a way of both of them getting to familiarize with each other, he tells me, as they continue to hammer out all the various options. This is going to take several such meetings, he says, and it's going to be a long haul. So expect many more such gatherings and many more such meetings with Sharad Pawar, but not of this third front model.
Now, NCP leader Sharad Pawar has called a meeting today of opposition parties to explore a joint fight against Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP, not just in the 2024 national elections, but also in Uttar Pradesh, where elections are due next year. Invitations have gone to several parties on behalf of Sharad Pawar and former BJP leader Yashwant Sinha, who joined the Trinamool Congress just before the Bengal elections. RJD leader Manoj Jha, AAP Sanjay Singh, Congress leaders Vivek Tankha and Kapil Sibal and National Conference leader Farooq Abdullah are some of the invitees. Mr. Sibal has reportedly declined, so has Mr. Jha. Eminent persons from various fields have also been invited. These include retired Justice A.P. Singh, poet Javed Akhtar, former Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi, lawyer Colin Gonsalves and journalists Karan Thapar and Pritish Nandi. And now the focus on the Punjab crisis and Navjot Singh Sidhu, whose revolt threatens to inflict major damage on the Congress as it fights for re-election in Punjab next year, said that he was willing to work with Amrinder Singh but added a condition for his in-house adversary. I'm always ready to work with him, but if issues are resolved, Navjot said of the Punjab Chief Minister, who was called to Delhi for the second time by a Congress panel trying to resolve this infighting.
Allegation being put on you. Why didn't you raise your voice?
What allegation?
Why didn't you raise your voice?
I am raising voice. The president said, review those. Every MLA says, review those. 78 MLA say, review them. Am I the president? Or am I the PPCC president?
You are one of the claimants.
Hang on, I don't claim anything. Nonsense. Talk sense. Tell him. Prove one thing. One position that I've asked for in the last 17 years, I've given up 10. Talk of giving jobs to the MLA sons, the elitist class. Who is he to stop Navjot Singh Sidhu and closing doors on Navjot Singh Sidhu? So he will close doors. Who opened the doors for him? I gave up a Rajya Sabha. The entire Prashant Kishor came 60 times. Did I want to come? All right. What happened to him? He lost his deposit. He lost 3 elections. He made his own party. He threatened the High Command. And after losing his deposit, he goes to Delhi. Is he Taksali? He goes to Delhi and Madam Sonia makes him president in 6 months.
Are you ready to work with Amrinder Singh?
When I'm saying I'm walking behind him?
Only if the issues are resolved.
Oh, that's it. What am I talking? Am I asking for something for myself?
And here's what Punjab Minister Rana Gurmeet Sodhi said on Sidhu.
He is very important. I feel that we should all understand the culture and the way of functioning secularism of the Congress Party, and we must accept the leadership of the Congress Party. Now let us wait for that, result, but idea is to now going to the press on and on and on is nothing is happening other than we would be weakening our position during the election times.
Now, Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh is in Delhi for a second time to meet a central Congress team amid the ongoing infighting in the party state unit. The Chief Minister will meet that Congress panel today. Let's go across to NDTV Sunil Prabhu now for more. And Sunil, what is the latest that you're hearing? You just saw that, heard that interview of Navjot Singh Sidhu with NDTV's Ghazali. And today the Chief Minister is going to meet with that Congress panel once again.
That's right. Not only meet with that panel, we are also told that there's a possibility of meeting both Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. We'll have to wait and see whether that really materializes because this is a fluid situation. But no doubt, the fact is that this has, as many have been pointing out, Rahul Gandhi himself has been parallelly meeting a lot of Punjab leaders, factional leaders. And the longer you allow this to fester, it's going to really create problems for the party. And it's in that context that Captain Amrinder hopefully will be able to resolve those issues with that panel, because this, as you are well aware, Gargi, has gone for more than 2 to 3 weeks. There have been issues, there have been concerns, some of them are trying to be addressed, and hopefully in the long run they will be able to sort it out, because if the Congress has to be in the reckoning and take on the Akalis and the BSP as well as the Aam Aadmi Party, it needs to have its house in order, and it can't be seen as fighting and squabbling in public ahead of those important elections which are due next year.
Right, Sunil, and it's not just Navjot Singh Sidhu. There's also issues over, two Congress MLA sons being given jobs in Punjab, and that has also created a controversy.
That has created a controversy, and that is the reason why Mr. Bajwa has asked his brothers to give up and give up those jobs that were offered. There have been a huge, big controversy over that, and it's in that context that both the factions have to understand that ultimately it is the public perception which is most important, and that needs to be rectified. And it should not be seen as the elite, as was pointed out, that those who are powerful, politically powerful, are benefiting from a cabinet decision. So I think in that context, there will have to be some course correction. How they go about it, as I said, is a matter of detail, which hopefully the Congress will be able to sort out, because if they don't, they are definitely digging their own grave in the state of Punjab.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us. So with that, Captain Amarinder Singh to meet with the panel and may also meet with Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi today. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, how a world champ is working as a domestic help in Rohtak. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, it's a classic case of government apathy towards a girl who's brought laurels to the country in sports. Sunitha, a backward-class girl from the Sisar Khas village of Rohtak district, who's won numerous national and international medals in strength lifting, is presently working as a domestic help in the village to make ends meet. Now, an MLA has reached out and announced a monetary grant for her.
Sunitha Devi from Haryana's Rohtak won multiple medals in strength lifting at national and international levels. But today, she works as domestic help in the village to earn her livelihood. Sunitha won gold medal in 52 kg category at state level in June 2018. She also won gold medal at World Strength Lifting Championship in 2020 in Bangkok, besides various other achievements.
सरकार से कोई मदद नहीं, सरकार से कोई मदद नहीं मिली अभी तक सर। ये सिर्फ खोखले दावे हैं।
ये तो मेरे को तो नहीं पता सर, लेकिन कोई आगे हेल्प करने के लिए नहीं आया।
Sunitha's parents Jamuna Devi and Ishwar Singh work as daily wagers. They took loans from private money lenders for Sunitha's training and fund her travels to participate in sporting events.
मजदूरी करते हैं। अच्छा। कोई यहाँ खेल लिया जी। घोड़े मेडल आ रहे हैं। मेरा याद रहो, मेरा नाम पढ़ा लिखा मैं था। मजदूर आदमी आप तो कदे स्कूल में नहीं गए। अच्छा। हाँ जी। उसके लिए मैं इसको 5 लाख रुपए इस करके।
Now the independent MLA from Meham, Balraj Kundu, has reached out to Sunitha and announced a special monetary grant of ₹5 lakh in addition to ₹3.5 lakh for a training kit and a monthly diet allowance of ₹10,000.
तो मैं इस बात का आप सबको विश्वास और भरोसा दिलाता हूं कि आर्थिक कमजोरी की, आर्थिक दिक्कत की वजह से इसके खेल पे कमी नहीं आने दूंगा, ना इसकी डाइट की और उसकी वजह से। तो मेरी शुभकामनाएं। आज उसी के संदर्भ में मैंने गांव वालों ने वादा किया है कि वो प्लॉट का इंतजाम वो करेंगे।
Actor and filmmaker Farhan Akhtar has also written to Sports Minister Kiran Rijiju urging him to help Sunitha. In Chandigarh with Mohammad Ghazali, Osama Shab for NDTV.
Welcome back. Jammu and Kashmir's six-party grouping, the People's Alliance for Gupkar Declaration, will meet today to decide on their joint strategy over the invitation for an all-party meeting to be chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 24th of June. Today's meeting will be held at Srinagar residence of National Conference President and former Chief Minister Farooq Abdullah. Now, 14 leaders, including former Chief Ministers and Deputy Chief Ministers, have been invited for the Prime Minister meeting, besides heads of the mainstream political parties. The all-party meeting will be the the Prime Minister's first interaction with political parties of Jammu and Kashmir since the 5th of August 2019, when the central government abrogated the state's special status and bifurcated it into union territories. Now, a special report. Let's watch a story of Delhi's ambulance couple, Himanshu and Twinkle Kalia, who ferried the ill to hospital, fetched medicines, arranged funerals, and sometimes step in to perform last rites.
मेरा नाम ट्विंकल कालिया है। मैं देश की पहली महिला एम्बुलेंस चालक हूँ। शायद मेरी ये जो लाइफ है, अब कैंसर का मेरी सर्जरी हुई 2 बार और रेडिएशन और कीमोथेरेपी के दौर से मैं गुजरी, और शायद ईश्वर ने मुझे जो बोनस की ज़िंदगी दी है वो इसीलिए दी है कि मैं दूसरों की सेवा कर पाऊँ। सन 2002 से ये जर्नी एक तरीके से स्टार्ट हुई। मेरे हस्बैंड की एज 14 इयर्स की थी। पापा जी का रोड एक्सीडेंट हुआ था, तो 6 से 7 हॉस्पिटल चेंज किए, उन लोगों को कहीं एम्बुलेंस नहीं मिली थी।
7 घंटे हम सड़क पर रिक्शा पे लेके पिताजी को अलग अलग अस्पतालों में धक्के खाते रहे। जब मैं अस्पताल पहुंचा तब डॉक्टर ने कहा कि समय पर ट्रीटमेंट ना मिलने की वजह से आपके पिताजी कोमा में चले गए हैं। सच बताऊं तो उस दिन मेरे पिताजी कोमा में नहीं गए थे, मेरे घर की खुशियां कोमा में गई और मेरी पढ़ाई लिखाई कोमा में चली। अभी एक केस हुआ मयूर विहार में, किसी की डेथ हुई। वो डेड बॉडी लेके घूम रहे थे, क्योंकि कोरोना की वजह से मौत हुई थी। कोई डेड बॉडी को उठाने को तैयार नहीं था और उनकी सोसाइटी अंदर ले जाने नहीं दे रही थी। कि फिर हमने वो डेड बॉडी ली, उसका अंतिम संस्कार करवाया।
मैंने भगवान को सिर्फ पत्थरों में देखा है, आज मैंने इंसान के रूप में भगवान देखा है। हिमांशु जी और ट्विंकल जी, थैंक्स टू देयर सर्विस मैं आज अपनी वाइफ को अग्नि दे पाया, वरना शायद आज वो नहीं होगा। दे आर डूइंग अ ह्यूमन जॉब एंड ग्रेट जॉब इन दिस आवर ऑफ नीड। मेरे साथ आज कोई भी नहीं रहा वर्चुअली, एक्सेप्ट ट्विंकल जी और हिमांशु।
Well, time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side of the break, a special interview with Dr. V.K. Paul, head of the National COVID Task Force.
All right, joining us right now is Dr. V.K. Paul. Dr. Paul is the head of the National COVID Vaccine Task Force. Dr. Paul, 80 lakh vaccines per day is an achievement in itself. This is size of many countries. We've been able to vaccinate, so congratulations. Obviously, this is a moment where we should be happy. But of course, there will be some important questions on how will we maintain this and perhaps even grow further.
Well, Sanket, it is truly a matter of great satisfaction and pride that the country has demonstrated that a vaccination program of this scale can be delivered. This is the first recognition that we would like the people of India, our countrymen and women, to appreciate and feel satisfied that going forward, universal vaccination is within our grasp, because we can deliver on such a scale. We are also confident that as we demonstrate this capability, it is critical that vaccine supplies will rise and should rise consistently over the next weeks and months. And coupled with that, this kind of a rate of vaccination on the ground is critical. Only then can we ensure universal immunization for COVID-19 in finite period of time that we have to ensure, and we are committed to covering every adult by a certain date has to be achieved. in order to stimulate our economy, in order to feel safe from this deadly virus, and to move into a position to start helping other nations as well, because that is also one of our important tenets and beliefs.
How soon, Dr. Paul, is that going to happen? Because obviously we have international commitments which we have kept on hold because of a vaccine shortage.
Well,
so what is the timeline?
This is not the apt time to put a timeline. But the point that I am making is that we have to ensure that people of India are vaccinated and the life comes to normalcy, economic life as well as social life comes to normal times. And then as we move forward, there is a responsibility for this nation to fulfill, because we are the vaccine pharmacy of the world, and our capabilities in that regard as we move forward are there to be harnessed by other people.
But Dr. Paul, my question is that today we've achieved 80. Even now, if you are to meet the end of the year target, we'll have to vaccinate about 97 lakh per day. Obviously, you would be looking at scalability further. So this sending of the vaccine abroad to to honor our international commitments, will this lead to a dip in this new peak that we have achieved,
Sanket,
or is this now the new consistency?
No, remember what I said. I laid out that aspirational goal for ourselves.
Which is?
There is no question of any vaccine availability for outside the nation till we have optimally vaccinated people of India. That's a clear priority. But when you are looking at setting the vision and high objectives for a nation of our size and importance, we are also having that objective in mind. But remember, today what has been demonstrated is that state government, union government, local administrations and people of India can come together to implement a vaccine program of this size. And if we have demonstrated it once, surely it paves the way for a sustained capabilities to be put on the ground on a daily basis.
I agree. Dr. Paul, don't mind my asking, because the questions will be slightly probing for the benefit of better understanding, nothing else. Dr. Paul, my question is on transparency as far as availability of the vaccine is concerned, because that is key, as you've just mentioned. So far there was shortage, that's why we could not scale it up. Now we have these vaccines being available, and thus the vaccination drive has peaked, or it has moved forward.
No, the vaccination drive is picking up. And in the context of the new guidelines, when the state government and the union government to work together in a seamless way through centralized procurement and supply system, you notice that new milestones can be achieved. The vaccine availability roadmap has been stated in public by the government multiple times. You are aware that we have two major players, and going between August to December with two major players, we have already placed orders for 44 crore doses, which is about half of what we were to procure as union government following the previous policy. What does it mean? It means that there is a visibility to the extent of 88 or 90 crore vaccine doses coming from these two players. We have given an advance purchase order in a way for a third vaccine, which is the BioE vaccine, for 30 crore doses for the same period of time. If you add this, would you not like to feel comfortable that 120 crore doses technically could be secured, and they are visible to us if everything goes well? Indeed, in a journey of this kind, there are some uncertainties. The scale-up happens in new facilities, for example. These new facilities have to function. The new reactors have to succeed. Fair enough. And in terms of additional vaccine types, such as the Cadila Zydus, such as BioE itself, such as the Novavax vaccine, such as, for example, the mRNA vaccine from Genova, there are journey points that have to be achieved. A roadmap has to be achieved. But the fact remains that we can be optimistic that this nation has the capability to make in India vaccines to that extent. And to this, we also have to keep in mind the potential of internationally developed vaccine. One such example is Sputnik, which is actually a joint vaccine vaccine developed through joint effort of two nations. That also has a future in terms of increased number, production, as well as at this stage import. We are also working closely with other international vaccine suppliers, and we are open to having them into our country. So when you put it all together, one can derive reasonable satisfaction and confidence that it is possible for our nation to achieve the goal of universal immunization for eligible population in a reasonable period of time.
Yeah, Dr. Paul, see, of course, barring a situation where there is force majeure, are you reasonably comfortable that we can only scale up from here and not go down to the lows of 10 lakh per day vaccine or even lower? That 80 lakh is now going to be the new normal. In fact, we are only going to scale it up further.
Sanket, you said it, and I like that. I don't have to say it. There is a buoyancy in your voice today that yes, going forward, we are looking forward to at a different level of vaccine uptake in the country. A day-to-day variation will happen, and it ought to happen. But the direction is acceleration, acceleration, and acceleration. Remember, currently we are still working with the vaccine supplies which are of finite nature, but they are rising. For example, in this month, we are visualizing about 12 crore doses to be available. Next month, we visualize about 15 crore doses, and then increasing in a quantum jump. So you should believe that these developments are real. They are very likely. There is a roadmap available to them. The companies are now stable. Companies are having a higher appetite to produce and to rise to the occasion and take the nation forward in making vaccine available to all of us.
Dr. Paul, one of the reasons that was cited, not by you, but many experts who said that the reason why the gap between the two Covishield doses has been increased is not just science, but also availability. It's both. So that's a reasonable justification. Now that you look at a horizon where you will have vaccines readily available, how likely is it that Dr. Paul decides, let's now reduce the duration?
Firstly, it is not Dr. Paul or the government of India decides this. The nation has a robust organization based on WHO guidelines and internationally accepted way of working. And this institution is called the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, or NTTV. It has people who are from diverse backgrounds, and they're all scientists. And they take a decision. At the core of that NTTV is this group which decides what is the scientific approach that has to be taken.
But what's your opinion?
Let me complete.
Yeah.
They visualize first and foremost whether a given vaccine is effective, will it work in our population, and then if it is to be administered, what are the parameters through which it should be administered. Then the discussion takes place, should we invest in this, is it affordable, can we take it to scale, do we have the cold chain, and by putting it all together, NTTV then takes a way forward. My answer to you is, respect the judgment of NTTV in these affairs.
Sure, okay.
Because individual scientists who go into public and individuals who go into public have a very valid reason to share with other people. But then when you have to take a decision in the interest of a large, vast, humanity, this has to be a responsible decision taken by a collegium.
Sure.
And that collegium sorts out the issues of varying understanding of the science and then come together to make a final decision. I would leave this decision to them. Please remember, no Sanket, this controversy should be settled.
Sure.
We were giving this vaccine 4 to 6 weeks. Then there was a pressure to go to 12. We did not. We were waiting for data to be done. We then moved one step above, taking into account every factor, including the fact how much vaccine is available. And then when we moved to 12 weeks, I believe the NTTV took it on the basis of UK's real life experience. They are examining this issue on a rolling basis. As the new data comes, they look at it. My plea is that it is good to see views on this in the public domain. We welcome. It shows the interest in the subject. But please leave such decisions to the wisdom of very high quality high esteem, high achiever, and people of high integrity who form that committee.
I told you, Dr. Paul, some of the questions will be probing, so you should not mind. The intention is to find out what the truth is and what the thought process is. My
Truth
next
is
question
very evident. We are driven by science. It is a collective judgment of our scientists, the very best in our nation and highly respected globally.
Now, Dr. Paul, my next question is about the feasibility of producing the vaccine. See, I'm sure you must have heard the concerns raised by Bharat Biotech, where they said that if the vaccine is going to be produced or purchased at a certain rate, it will create certain amount of difficulties. Do you think that this could also be a potential problem later? While you're thinking about scalability, while you're thinking about expanding our availability of the vaccine, could this potentially become a problem where the companies just don't have enough money to be able to sustain their efforts?
I have not heard that there is such a concern. These companies are stable companies. They have stable finances. The government of India has always offered them assistance. Advance orders have been placed. You are aware that for the segment of 3 months ending July, advance orders were placed for the commitment that was required to be made by Government of India. State governments place their own orders. We are in touch with them on a daily basis. There is no such thing that there is a concern about their sustainability in financial terms. We are there. We are together in this. You will not believe how much interaction takes place with these companies on a daily basis. That is why we are confident and we know their plans. We have our regulator present in their company. They are watching their development. They are ensuring quality. They are helping. They are giving signals. They are watching how best we can help them. How to make sure that the time taken for a particular roadmap to be achieved for escalation of production, for example, in the Bangalore facility of Bharat Biotech, how can we be helpful in this regard? So this is a partnership. We are working together. We are transparent with each other. Yes, they have to be business-wise viable. We talk it over and then take a path which is acceptable to both the government and these wonderful manufacturers.
I have plenty of questions, Dr. Paul, but I'm quickly going to squeeze them in, and this is related to the Delta Plus variant. This is a time when we see a new version of the Delta variant being reported in Maharashtra, and at the same time, massive unlocking is happening. Do you see this as a point of concern or a spot of bother?
Well, Delta variant or no Delta variant, our unlocking, to use that word, or relaxation of restrictions must happen in a systematic, stepwise, de-escalation wise. It cannot be abrupt. It cannot be sudden going back to the ways that triggered, at least partly responsible, partly for the rise that we saw. So first and foremost, it is the responsibility of district administration, the state administration, to ensure that we go in a stepwise manner. We don't debottle the whole thing in one go. We must be sure that as we open up, we have our preparedness ready. Testing, tracking, contact tracing, quarantining the contacts, setting up containment zones as required, and also enforcing the COVID appropriate behavior. We cannot let ourselves be exposed to another wave unnecessarily. It's about discipline. And therefore, this must go hand in hand with de-escalation. We should watch it. We should try it out, move from one step to the next, and let's be all responsible. But remember, there is really no place for large gatherings. There's no place for mass gathering. There is no place for big parties. There is no place for restaurants full of people and air conditioning going on. That kind of a thing is supposed to be postponed.
Dr. Paul, what's your
several months now.
What's your estimation on a third wave? I mean, we spoke to Dr. Guleria a few days ago, and he said that his estimation is that if things continue, if people don't respect COVID appropriate behavior, it would come as soon as 6 to 8 weeks. Now, that's very alarming. What needs to be done, and what's your estimation?
Well, this Dr. Guleria, the way you have put it, has said, if people behave like this, the wave can come soon. Right? Conversely, if we don't behave like this, why should the third wave happen at all? My request and my expectation, my humble request will be, let us be disciplined in our personal contact in terms of wearing a mask, social distancing, being careful, don't go out unnecessarily, don't enter crowded places and so on. Be careful. My request is that let these state governments and district administrations ensure the trace and track strategy and testing strategy optimally. If we do all these things in a systematic manner, why should the third wave come? And in the meanwhile, ramp up vaccination. If we remain disciplined as a nation for the next 4 to 5 months, and we ramp up vaccination the way we can, and we have demonstrated how we can do it, we should not have any third wave. I think having or not having a third wave of the kind,
depends on
wave, like
what
a
we
real
decide
wave.
right now.
It is dependent upon us. I call for discipline.
But
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी कहा था, दवाई भी कड़ाई भी. जो कड़ाई वाला part है, discipline का part है, वो हमें नहीं भूलना चाहिए.
But Dr. Paul, you would also agree, and you have said this initially also, that the first step is testing, right? In your press conferences also, you have said that we are ramping up our testing capabilities, and yet the latest figures on testing is that we are only testing 18 lakh. This has actually come down. Do you think this is a cause of concern?
Remember, Sanket, how testing happens. See, testing happens in first and foremost if somebody is sick, so you get your test done. Respiratory symptoms, so you get the test done. If somebody is positive, then there is a protocol to test 15-20 people of this person who came in contact. Then you continue to test people who are high risk, transport workers, bazaar mein, people who are exposed, healthcare workers, and people who are serving, let's say, in restaurants and so on, or transportation workers, as I said, or mandis, for example, bazaar, market. This is the way surveillance takes place. But now in a situation, if the positive cases have really come down, there will be fewer people to be traced at contact. So some level of variation will happen. But remember, there is a WHO benchmark. And WHO benchmark, we will never go below that as a policy. No district, no population. And that benchmark is 140 per million tests per day. And the government has made it very clear. So that's one condition. So you watch whether anybody is going below that. Second condition, we test enough to ensure that the test positivity is below 5% and as close to 2% as possible. Within this you play, because tomorrow if the pandemic becomes very minimal, there will be less people who have flu-like illness. There will be less people.
So there will be less tests.
Who required. But then sufficient number of testing and the capability to mount testing to a totally different level remains our responsibility by way of preparedness. And we have shown that you can have testing to the tune of 22 lakhs and even more. And if required, we can mount it to 30 lakh.
Well,
so that preparedness must never be lowered.
Dr. Paul, all the best coming back to vaccinations, all the best, and let's hope that we are able to achieve this target of vaccinating all by the end of the year. And may this 80 lakh be a new benchmark or the new bar, and we only exceed this.
Thank
you so much.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. Our top story this morning, India set a new vaccination record. The daily vaccinations on Monday hit an all-time high on day one of the centre's new vaccination policy rollout. Over 84 lakh jabs were given on Monday. Madhya Pradesh was the highest with over 16 lakh vaccinations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted, record-breaking vaccination numbers are gladdening. The vaccine remains our strongest weapon to fight COVID. Congratulations to those who got vaccinated and kudos to all the frontline warriors working hard to ensure so many citizens got the vaccine.
India crossed its highest daily vaccinations today with nearly 80 lakh doses earlier this evening on the first day of a fresh push, making jabs free for all. Karnataka was the front runner with over 9.8 lakh vaccinations today by 7 p.m, while it usually vaccinates 1.5 lakh people daily. Karnataka had set a target of vaccinating up to 7 lakh people today.
Opening up almost inevitably leads to a rising number of COVID-19 cases. And as Karnataka lifts lockdown restrictions, the state has been organizing free vaccination camps in many parts of Karnataka. And here in Bengaluru, the BBMP is also organizing free camps in work spots like this one. The hope that mass vaccination can help to lessen the impact of the third wave.
In Maharashtra, 3.6 lakh vaccinations were done by 7 p.m. in comparison to the usual daily vaccinations of around 2.7 lakh.
I wanted to get vaccinated as soon as possible. I have a kid, so I didn't want to, take any chances further with all these things coming up.
In Uttar Pradesh, till 7 p.m., the state had vaccinated 6.3 lakh people, much higher than its usual daily vaccinations of 3.5 lakh.
On the streets of Lucknow, especially near Chief Minister Adityanath's residence, there are multiple billboards talking about the big push of the Uttar Pradesh government for vaccinations.
But UP's other big challenge, vaccine hesitancy, especially in the state's vast rural areas.
अगर इससे हल्का बुखार आ सकता है तो कोई दिक्कत होगी तो बुखार की दवा ले लीजिएगा केवल दाब लो उसे
अरे ये देखिए मुख्यमंत्री जी लगवा रहे हैं प्रधानमंत्री जी लगवा रहे हैं
क्या आपको तकलीफ हो रहा है क्या परेशानी है कि आप लोग टीका नहीं लगवा रहे वो लोग कोई भी जवाब नहीं दे रहे हैं बस बोल रहे हैं कि हमें नहीं लगवाना हम पूछ रहे क्यों नहीं लगवा रहे रीजन क्या है रीजन भी वो लोग नहीं बता रहे हैं और कुछ लोग तो इतना वो करने लगे पैर तक पकड़ने लग रहे हैं कि मैडम हमें नहीं लगवाना है आप चली जाइए
Assam, which has one of the lowest vaccination rate in the country, inoculated 3 lakh people by 7 p.m. instead of average 1 lakh vaccinations per day.
Assam has launched a mega vaccination drive. The aim is to inoculate at least 30 lakh people in coming 10 days and therefore 2,000 vaccine centers like this one has been opened up. The public response has also been good on day one and the government says if required in urban areas, vaccine centers would remain open for 12 hours a day.
ऑनलाइन के लिए प्रॉब्लम हो रहा था हम लोग को मिल नहीं रहा है मौका नहीं मिल रहा है तो अभी क्या जो अभी ऐसे खुलेआम दे दिया डायरेक्ट दिया सरकार तो उसका वजह से हम लोग को भी ज्यादा प्रॉफिट है जो हम लोग आके डायरेक्ट वैक्सीन ले रहे हैं.
The Bengal government has decided not to do universal free vaccination from today. They are going a little slow because vaccine supplies are low.
However, Delhi had 75,000 vaccinations by 7 p.m. Its usual daily vaccinations are around 85,000. The state also complained of shortage of stock.
दिल्ली सरकार को भी इन्होंने कहा, दिल्ली सरकार के अफसरों को कहा कि दिल्ली की सरकार की तरफ से भी ये विज्ञापन जाना चाहिए, धन्यवाद मोदी जी, मुफ्त वैक्सीन. मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि लोगों को विज्ञापन की नहीं वैक्सीन की जरूरत है. 2,94,00,000 वैक्सीन जैसा मैंने कहा दिल्ली के लिए चाहिए. भारतीय जनता पार्टी को शर्म आनी चाहिए कि वैक्सीन तो दे रहे हैं 15 लाख और ऊपर से अफसरों पर दबाव डाल रहे हैं कि विज्ञापन दीजिए.
The government had earlier declared its ambitious target of covering the whole adult population of 108 crore by the end of this year. But for India to achieve that goal, it will have to maintain the consistency of its vaccination drive. Bureau report for NDTV.
Now shifting focus to one of the big political stories today, National Congress Party leader Sharad Pawar has called a meeting of opposition parties today at his residence to explore a joint fight against Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP, not just in the 2024 national elections, but also in UP, where elections are due next year. So details of this meeting emerged after Pawar's meeting and a second discussion with Prashant Kishor in 2 weeks. So that created a lot of buzz and speculation around this meeting called of the opposition leaders. However, the two are not connected. Opposition is exploring a joint fight against the BJP in upcoming polls, not just 2024 as we mentioned, but also in the UP elections. Now, the invitations have been sent out to several opposition parties from Sharad Pawar and Yashwant Sinha. And this meeting is of the Rashtra Manch, which Yashwant Sinha had set up in 2018 as a sort of gathering or a grouping against the BJP. So it's members of the Rashtra Manch, which have also seen the Congress attending. RJD's Manoj Jha, AAP Sanjay Singh and Congress's Kapil Sibal have all been invited. What we do know is Manoj Jha and Kapil Sibal have declined. So, Congress's Kapil Sibal and RJD's Manoj Jha are going to be skipping the meeting today. And in fact, that meeting taking place today at around 4 o'clock And as we said, it's a gathering. There's several eminent personalities who've also been invited. These include Justice A.P. Singh, poet Javed Akhtar, former Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi, lawyer Colin Gonsalves, and journalists Karan Thapar and Pritesh Nandi. So this has created a lot of interest and speculation around this. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined by two invitees, Ghanshyam Tiwari, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, and Professor Arun Kumar, senior economist, former professor of economics in the JNU. Thank you so much both for joining us. And Ghanshyam Tiwari, first to you, what are the expectations from this meeting? What can you tell us?
Well, good morning. Rashtramanch was formed by Yashwant Sinha ji as a platform where national agenda could be placed in the guardianship of thought leaders, people who have had long public standing, and with a focus on what India has to aspire for as a nation. And throughout last 3 years, the Rashtramanch has met and discussed this under the convenership of Yashwant Sinha ji. So today's meeting is also another opportunity to discuss the important things that we face as a country. Just because a central government is not performing on the national agenda does not mean the national agenda vanishes. There are people, thought leaders, who can come together and place the national agenda in front of the country and work towards it to make us the nation we aspire to be.
Right. So, Ghanshyam Tiwari, yesterday actually, it created a lot of speculation, a big sensation, in fact, because the announcement of the calling of this meeting came soon after the meeting Sharad Pawar and Prashant Kishor had held. So there was speculation. Is it, talks of some sort of third front? Is there movement towards that? Because initially there was also information that Congress wasn't invited to this meeting, though that was then later disproved.
I think in politics it is easy to relate events that are not related at all. Rashtramanch has always been a platform of open dialogue of leaders across political parties who have ideas for the country and who can openly discuss it beyond the boundaries of the political party. And that is how the Rashtramanch has held meetings in Patna, in Lucknow, in Mumbai and across the country. The meeting today is focused on the national agenda and how different political parties across the country can work together on that national agenda. I think there are parallel events that are happening in the national political frame, but I would not like to relate the two events.
All right, and several eminent personalities, economists, former bureaucrats also invited. Professor Arun Kumar, tell us about your expectations from this meeting today.
So, Rashtramanch has been inviting me to, speak about the current economic situation. The economic situation has been quite dire. Even before the pandemic, the economy had been slowing down and the unorganized sector had been hit very hard, and they constitute 94% of the workforce of the country. So if that larger constituency is hurt, then obviously it's a matter of concern for everybody. Even agriculture got hurt because of the pandemic, because much of the crop could not come out of the fields to the market, and therefore fruits and vegetables and all declined. But the government's data didn't take that into account, So the GDP data that has been coming out is not quite correct. And the government kept saying that we'll have a V-shaped quick recovery. But I've been arguing, and this is what, I try to brief also the Rashtramanch meeting, that the economy is not like a rubber ball which you throw to the ground, it'll bounce back immediately. There are people, there are, farmers, there are workers who get, lose employment, who lose income, and therefore we need to support them. Unfortunately, the government's program has been a supply side response rather than a demand side. So of the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, less than 1.5% of GDP was provided as support for the people who had lost incomes, etc. So this program that the government put out is not going to solve the problem immediately. So these were some of the concerns that we discussed at the Rashtramanch meeting over the last year and a half. And recently also when we met, we were worried about the slow vaccination drive, the second wave which was overtaking us, and the government's inability to deal with it quickly. There are a lot of shortages of oxygen and various other things. So it was basically concerned citizens getting together to see how an alternative program can be drawn up.
So opposition leaders, political leaders, eminent personalities, concerned citizens and economists like yourself getting together to brainstorm, as it were. What would you say about all this speculation and excitement in the media when initially it was thought that this was some sort of coming together of a third front?
Politically, it's very difficult for political parties, of different issues to get together. But a loose front can always be formed, So whether that happens or not depends on the politics of the day, depends on what are the pulls and pressures that come on the various political parties. So I think it's early to say whether a third front would be formed or not. But I think certainly, there are parties which are concerned about the nation, which are concerned about the issues of the day. And if they get together and they try and form something which can, give an alternative to the country, then I think that's a good step.
All right, Ghanshyam Tiwari, your comments on that?
Well, I think it's extremely important at this stage that we as a country realize, and every citizen realizes, that just because the government has not performed the economy or our fight back with pandemic or the kind of poverty that is emerging as a result, does not mean that we as a country do not have thought leaders, people with high public standing and experience in government who can take the country forward. And Rashtramanch is bringing together this platform to continue to formulate that platform.
Rashtramanch is, of course, this meeting that has been called, but all this speculation around a third front. Prashant Kishor has ruled it out. He says, it's never proven to be successful and it's something that hasn't worked and he would not be a part of any sort of third front. I just want to know what is your party's comments on a third front?
Well, we believe that as a political party, we are completely focused on Uttar Pradesh elections, and what the nation is showing that it is not about a front or another front. It's about winning state after state on the agenda of governance and good work for the people. That is what will ensure that this government that does not perform will go away.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us this morning on the program. And yes, there was a lot of speculation after on Monday there was this meeting between Sharad Pawar and poll strategist Prashant Kishor. And there was a lot of speculation around a third front possibly being planned. But then later, speaking to NDTV, Prashant Kishor completely ruled out any association with the third front to take on the BJP in the next general election. So it seems the two meetings were not connected. The meeting that Sharad Pawar held with Prashant Kishor yesterday and the meeting that has been called today of the Rashtramanch. Prashant Kishor told NDTV, I don't believe a third front or fourth front could emerge as a successfully challenge to the current dispensation. Mr. Kishor believes that the tried and tested third front model is archaic. Third front means a gathering of smaller regional parties, not including the Congress or the BJP. So a third front of regional parties. But Prashant Kishor said it's not suited to the current political dynamic. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll get you more news on the other side. Stay with us.
Party meeting, and they are saying it's an open discussion would be there. And one thing, these members of the Gupkar Alliance says that there has not been any condition by the center. Even though there has not been even any indication that you give up your stand on Article 370. Nothing such has been told them. So they say it in a sense it is their success that the government of India has finally agreed to talk to the real stakeholders of Jammu and Kashmir on 24th of this month, and today Gupkar Alliance is meeting for that invitation.
All right, Nazir, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. Well, the latest numbers have come in from the Health Ministry on coronavirus, and India has reported under 50,000 cases for the first time in 91 days. India has reported 42,640 new cases of coronavirus. So the number has gone below 50,000 for the first time after 91 days. So that's the big news right now, with 46,640 cases of COVID being reported in the last 24 hours. Remember, yesterday was also very significant, as 86 lakh vaccines were administered on a single day. So that was a huge achievement on the first day of the new vaccine drive, where the centre is giving free vaccines to all the states in order to pick up the vaccination rates. Well, let's go across to NDTV's Sukirti now for more. And Sukirti, finally the numbers going below 50,000 with 46,640 cases being reported in the last 24 hours.
Well, absolutely, Gargi. This is like a double good news for India at this point of time. First, we registered this record over 86 lakh vaccinations in a span of about 24 hours, which is India's highest. And now there's another news coming in that our cases are also going down at a very rapid scale, with cases now going down under 50,000. And this is happening after a span of 91 days. So a big record for India at this point of time. Our positivity rate also continues to be
under 5%, and even our testing has been very high. Over 11 lakh tests are conducted on a daily basis. Even yesterday, the National Vaccine Expert Committee Chief, Dr. V.K. Paul, who's also the Niti Aayog member, he was also saying that India is also testing enough at this point of time to ensure that our positivity rate stays below 5%. So all of those active efforts being made from the government side, but also all of this coming with a note of caution that we will have to keep our guard up. We will have to ensure that our cases continue to remain low, because there are still apprehensions that we could end up seeing a third wave of the COVID crisis if everybody does not keep their precautions up. So all economic activities are opening up, but people will still have to be cautious when they go out.
Now for our special campaign, Vaccinate India, in partnership with Google, where we take a look at questions that are frequently asked by all of you online about COVID and the vaccines, questions that you often Google. And joining us to answer those questions for you is Dr. Arvind Kumar, Chairman, Institute of Chest Surgery, Medanta Hospital. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us. And even though, you know, the vaccination drive has reached this stage, it's been many months, still many people often Google, are COVID vaccines safe?
Gargi, this is a question often asked to us also in the outdoor and in public meetings also. Is vaccine safe? There is now data from across the world and over 28 crore jabs having been given within the country to prove that vaccine is safe. It does have minor side effects which include redness at the vaccination site, some fever, body ache, malaise, joint aches, etc., which typically last 24 to 48 hours. But beyond that, any major side effect or life-threatening side effect has been virtually non-existent in our country. To conclude, these vaccines are absolutely safe. Gargi.
All right, Doctor, you know, initially, especially with the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is Covishield here, there were concerns around, you know, clots that were reported in Europe. But those were very few considering the millions of vaccines that have been given out, isn't it?
So, Gargi, billions of vaccines were given, and there were some cases reported which led to temporary halting, not cancellation, halting of the use. And later on, it was never proved that it is a cause and effect relationship. In any case, if you look at the incidence, it was something like 0.000002%, you know. So that's a negligible incidence, and over 28 crore jabs given in our country, this has not been a concern at all. So I don't think people should be worried about the clotting issues with either of the vaccines. Gargi.
Right, and go ahead and get vaccinated by whichever vaccine is available to you, because that's the only way we're going to get out of this pandemic, isn't it? And that's how we're going to stop variants and the virus from mutating.
Yes. So these variants also have been an area of concern. My short message to all the viewers will be that this is an area for scientists to deliberate upon, research upon, and issue guidelines. As far as we, the public, are concerned, our duty is just one. Just go out and get vaccinated. Whether it is Covishield or Covaxin or Sputnik, whichever is available closest to you, please go and get it ASAP. That's your national duty, Gargi.
Right, sir. Also, the other question that is often, I know you've just spoken about this, but what are the side effects? Are there any side effects of the vaccines?
Gargi, as I said, the most commonly seen side effects are local pain at the site of the jab, some fever, chills, body ache, malaise, and few people have nausea-like feeling. These are mild symptoms. They typically last 24 to 48 hours, respond beautifully well to paracetamol tablets, and typically settle in about 48 hours. There is no question of anyone getting COVID from vaccination, as is often stated by people. That's an unfounded fear. So side effects almost negligible, benefits huge. So what is the message? Please go out and get vaccinated today. today.
Right, Dr. Kumar, we're also often asked by people about allergies, that those who are, prone to allergies and different types of allergies, what is the advice for them?
So if someone has a history of some major allergic reaction to some injections, etc., the advice to them will be, number one, they should not get vaccinated in centers like schools or, RWA centers where backup facilities are not there. Number one, they should go to major hospitals. Number two, they should share it with the doctor on duty there, who will then be able to take adequate precautions. And after proper checking, I think most of them should be able to get vaccinated without any major risk involved.
All right, so very valuable advice there. Thank you so much, Dr. Arun Kumar, for joining us. All right, some disturbing news coming out from Uttar Pradesh in the Kheri district, which is 130 kilometers from Lucknow, where the police have invoked rape charges and charges under the stringent POCSO, or Child Sexual Offences Act. This after the body of an 8-year-old girl was found late on Sunday night in a sugarcane field in a village of the district. The girl's salwar had been removed, and initial reports said that it was used to strangle her. According to reports, the girl had been missing for hours before her body was found.
हत्या के अभियोग से संबंधित 8 वर्षीय बालिका का पोस्टमार्टम परीक्षण आज चिकित्सकों के पैनल के द्वारा किया गया। पोस्टमार्टम परीक्षण से मृत्यु का कारण एंटीमोर्टम स्ट्रैंगुलेशन से दम घुटना पाया गया। यद्यपि पोस्टमार्टम पैनल द्वारा मृतक बालिका के साथ दुष्कर्म करने संबंधी कोई अभिमत पोस्टमार्टम परीक्षण रिपोर्ट में अंकित नहीं किया गया है, किंतु मृतक बालिका के शरीर पर पाई गई चोटों एवं परिस्थितिजन्य साक्ष्य के आधार पर विवेचना में 376 AB और 5M/6 पोक्सो एक्ट की वृद्धि की जा रही है। विवेचना के क्रम में पोस्टमार्टम पैनल के चिकित्सकों का बयान अंकित कर पोस्टमार्टम परीक्षण रिपोर्ट की स्थिति को स्पष्ट करते हुए अग्रेतर कार्रवाई की जाएगी।
Well, Alok Pandey joins us on the phone line for more. And Alok, another disturbing case involving a child emerging in Uttar Pradesh. The police have formed some teams to probe this incident?
Well, yes, they have. So far, there have been no arrests in the case. The incident took place on Sunday. The body was discovered on Sunday night. It was found in a sugarcane field in the village. The grandmother of the girl has said that she and the girl had gone to graze their goats in their field, and this takes about 8 to 9 hours. So they had gone around in the afternoon, and then it would take till late evening. But the girl got tired, and so she told her grandmother that she was returning home. So the grandmother said, "Okay, you go, I'll come back later." And she thought that the girl had gone home. The girl's family at home thought that she was with the grandmother in the fields, and there was no communication between these two people, these two sets of people. But then finally, when the grandmother returned home with her goats, the family realized that she was not there. She had not returned home. So then they mounted a search for her. First, they went to a local ceremony that was taking place, assuming that she might, because it was a child, she might have just gone there, but she was not found there. Then they looked for her elsewhere, and they found her body in the sugarcane field. Like you said, the police suspect that she was strangled to death. Her salwar had been removed from her body, and her grandmother has said that her legs were tied too. The police have carried out a postmortem, as the SP was saying. He says that the postmortem has indicated that she was strangled to death and she choked to death. But the nature of her injuries are serious, and that is why the police have decided to also invoke the rape charge, and also, like you said, charges under the Prevention of Child Sexual Offences or the POCSO Act.
All right. Thanks so much, Alok, for joining us with all the latest information there. Another unfortunate case of a young girl being killed in Uttar Pradesh. Now, the UP police have summoned Twitter India's managing director Manish Maheshwari for questioning on Thursday in connection with the tweets on the assault of an elderly Muslim man in Ghaziabad. Earlier, he had made himself available on a video call. The police have also asked Twitter India's residence grievance officer Dharmendra Chatur to report to them on the same day. The notice says these two officers were responsible for activities on the microblogging platform. You couldn't remove certain tweets even after you were asked to by authorities. You understand Indian laws and are bound to follow them, is what the notice said. A case was filed last week against the social media site along with several journalists and Congress leaders, alleging that the tweets they had shared on the assault were misleading and aimed at provoking communal sentiments. Earlier, Ghaziabad resident Abdul Samad had alleged that he was thrashed by some men and forced to chant Jai Shri Ram and Vande Mataram. The police, however, denied any communal angle in the case, claiming he was beaten up over amulets that he had sold. They alleged he was attacked by 6 people, a Hindu and Muslim, who were known to him. However, Mr. Samad's family has denied the police's claims. Now let's focus on vaccines. And in the first day of the accelerated vaccination campaign, over 86 lakh vaccines were administered, almost doubling the previous high of nearly 43 lakh doses on the 2nd of April. Madhya Pradesh saw the highest number of vaccinations in the country, with over 16 lakh doses being administered. And staying with news of the vaccines, Bharat Biotech has submitted phase 3 data for its indigenous COVID-19 vaccine, Covaxin, to the Drug Controller General of India. Well, to talk more about the vaccines, we can now go across. Ratnadeep joins us from Guwahati, Sam from Chennai, and Sukirti from Delhi. And Sukirti, first, the vaccination drive, record-breaking numbers yesterday, but also interesting this news about Covaxin finally submitting its phase 3 data. However, this data has not been made public.
Well, yes, the data has not been made public. Earlier, Bharat Biotech had released some interim results based on which the efficacy of the vaccine was believed to be about 81%. But those results are still being peer reviewed, and the final results that Bharat Biotech has submitted to the DCGI, those are yet to be published in the public domain, to be published in any international peer reviewed journal. So the subject expert committee of the Indian drug regulator is expected to meet somewhere around 12 p.m. today, and they will be taking up the issue. Covaxin is already being administered in India, but a final approval from the DCGI on these final phase 3 result will be a big boost to Bharat Biotech, especially coming at a time when it has also applied for an emergency use listing to the World Health Organization. Tomorrow, Bharat Biotech officials are also expected to meet WHO officials about this emergency use listing and about their final submission of their data. So at this point of time, there are Indians who faced issues in international travel because they've been administered Covaxin, which is yet to get a WHO listing. So Bharat Biotech at this point of time facing 2 challenges. One, of course, is how the DCGI is going to look at their final data, and then, of course, if the Indian drug regulator gives a go ahead, then that will give boost up their morale, and that will help Bharat Biotech while they are submitting their data to the World Health Organization as well, which will make it ultimately easier for Bharat Biotech to export their vaccines, and also more convenient for Indians who've taken a jab of Covaxin when they are traveling abroad.
All right, so finally around 6 months after it was launched, finally the phase 3 data has been submitted. Thanks so much, Sukirti, for that. If we talk about the vaccines now, Ratnadeep, in Assam yesterday, over 3.3 lakh vaccines were administered, and the state hoping to better this?
That's right. In fact, in Assam today is the day 2 of the enhanced vaccine program, and we are coming to you from a vaccine center in Guwahati. And you can see there is a long queue already of people who have turned up here at this vaccine center. Now, as far as Assam is concerned, remember, Assam was among those states which had low vaccine coverage. So this program really looking forward to increase the vaccine coverage. The state government plans to inoculate at least 3 lakh people each day for the coming 9 days. In that way, they would actually complete at least 30 lakh people. And there you can see this is the long queue here. Over 2,300 vaccine centers have been opened up across the state. In the urban areas, in fact, the state government has ordered that the vaccine centers should remain open at least for 12 hours so that it will ease people to come and take their jabs. Although we see there are a lot of turnout here, would like to talk to some of them. Excuse me, this is the first time you have come for taking your jab, or you have tried before?
Yeah, I know, but I know first dose is this.
This is your first dose. Yeah. So this is the mega vaccine drive which is taking place. Previously, we saw a lot of people, mostly youngsters over 18 years, facing problem in terms of booking their slots through Covaxin. Now it has been made into a walk-in entry. So, do you think the situation has improved?
Yeah, I know that, but this is a very good position. We decided if this first is.
So there you are, a lot of people have turned out, and in fact in Assam what the state government is also trying is to ramp up vaccine in the rural areas. So in the rural areas also the vaccine centers would remain open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. so that more scope is given to people to come and inoculate them, and the target is to, however, by the end of this month, at least vaccinate at least 30 lakh people in the state.
All right, let's go across to Sam now for more from Tamil Nadu. And Sam, tell us about, the numbers from yesterday and the state hoping to vaccinate more and more people in coming days.
Gargi, yesterday 3.96 lakh doses were administered across Tamil Nadu, and this is a new high for the state. Although the Tamil Nadu government says they never made yesterday's vaccination camps any special, they say it's business as usual. Whatever doses they get from Delhi, they immediately pass it on to districts, and they say they have the capacity to go up to 6 lakh doses every day, but the supply is quite short. In fact, recently the state even ran out of vaccines for a few days, and they've asked the union government to provide at least 2 crore doses every month so that they can inoculate at least 6 lakh doses every day. At the moment, the total doses, the tally in Tamil Nadu has crossed 1.24 crore, and around 23 lakh people have taken both doses. For a state with more than 7 crore population, this is still less. And Tamil Nadu, although it has a very robust healthcare system, in terms of vaccination, it stands quite low next to states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. And officials explain initially the state suffered from vaccine hesitancy. This became worse after actor Vivek died a day after he took his first dose. But now, amid the second pandemic, authorities say there is a surge in demand and they are finding it difficult to cope with that. And initially, the Tamil Nadu government blamed the central government of giving less to states with a higher population like Tamil Nadu, tacitly implying that BJP ruled states get higher allotment. But the centre explained that it is giving on the basis of utilization and not in proportion to the population. But Tamil Nadu hopes in the coming days it will be able to even touch greater numbers in terms of vaccination and cover a larger population.